So IPOs at your doorstep. New IPO, Windlass Biotech Limited. Just coming on 4th August with the price band of 448 to 460. Friends, they are among top 5 CDMO in domestic pharmaceutical formulations. So the company belongs to the pharma industry. The company operates with pharmaceutical companies as they are increasingly outsourcing the development and manufacturing of new products. Domestic formulations CDMO is projected to grow at a CAGR of approximately 14% in coming 5 years. So what's all the offer about? Friends, offer there are two type of offer. First, offered by company, 165 crore would be going to the company. And second, there is OFS, 240 crore would be going to past investors with the OFS, that is offer for sale. So from this OFS of 240 crore, 55 crore would be with promoter and 240 crore. Remaining 185 crore would be going to the investor VC who have invested in this company few years back. So what's the object of the offer? We could not talk about promoter or investors to 40 crore, but the offer of 165 crore which is made by company, 50 crore would be proposed used for equipment purchase. Around 48 to 50 crore would be used for working capital. 20 crore would be used to repay the borrowings. So this is the object of the offer. If you see the shareholding pattern, here promoters are holding around 78% stake. PV, that is the investor, private venture, are having a hold of around 22%. And that's Stano India Private Equity Fund to hold 40 lakh shares and could liquidate their total shares. They have invested some years back at the acquisition cost of around 150 and now giving to new investors the same shares at 460 rupees. But yes, they have invested their time. Friends, going to the financial information, we can see here paid up capital is just a 6.4 crore, a small company with a net worth of around 200 crore. So net worth means equity plus their other equity there. Sales is around 428 crore and it's growing by 18% CAGR. So yes, their growth is there. But 428 means it's a small company with lesser than turnover lesser than even 500 crore. Profits 16 crore suggest us that their margin are thin margin of around 4%. EPS of 8.7 suggests that if we are offered at the price of 460, so P is around 53. NAV, which is close to book value, is 109. So we can say we are offered at the price to book value of around 4x. Total borrowing, if you consider, then it's 31 crore. So even if you consider total borrowing, then also debt to equity is low. We can say that yes, it is a low debt company. So Eagle's eye on fundamentals, sales less than 500 crore, a small company, yeah, growing by 18% CAGR during last 2 years. Overall, we have seen overall pharma industry is growing by the same percentage. Ratio, thin profit margin of 4%, offered at high valuations of 50p. Moreover, pharma is also trading at high P. right? Borrowing, if we see total borrowing of 31 crore, but if you see only long term borrowing, then that's even less than 1 crore. So we can say it's favorable debt to equity ratio. The debt paying capacity is 125, 124, which is good liquidity. So overall, a small company with a thin margin, but yeah, good fundamentals. So what are the bases of the offer? First, let us look the qualitative analysis, qualitative basis. Friends, this is a CDMO player with focus on the chronic therapeutic category. Second, innovative portfolio of complex generic products supported by robust R&D capabilities. Third, efficient and quality compliant manufacturing facilities with significant entry barriers. Fourth, long-term relationship with Indian pharma companies. Now let us look on their quantitative analysis. As we just discussed, EPS of 8.7 and NAV of 109 suggests that yeah, they are given at somewhat higher valuations, because overall we can see that now pharma industry is growing good. So yeah, valuations are a little bit high. It's all right. Return on net worth is good of 19%. Peer group, there is no proper direct listed comparison in peer groups. So we will talk about some of their unlisted entities later. So going to quantitative analysis and qualitative analysis, we can say not an extraordinary, but yes, a good offer. So let us check from which industry does it belong to, and can we expect this industry to grow or not. So this is the trend in GDP growth in India. GDP increased at 6.6% CAGR during 2012 to 20. India's GDP is estimated to have grown at CAGR of around 7% from 87 trillion to 146 trillion during the year 2012 to 2020. And last year was the COVID affected year. So in next three fiscals, India's growth to be greater than the global GDP, as you can see in the chart. India's GDP growth is expected to rebound to 9.5% in 2022 due to a very big base, flattening on the COVID curve, rollout of vaccinations, investment focused government spending, and benefit from the rising global tide lifts all boats effect. Friends, looking to the healthcare expenditure, India lacks peers in healthcare expenditure. According to the Global Health Expenditure Database compiled by WHO, India's current expenditure on healthcare was 3.5% of the GDP in 2018. India's real GDP in 2019 was around 140 trillion. Accordingly, India's current healthcare expenditure in 2019 is estimated at around 5 trillion. That is, India trails developed countries such as United States and UK, as well as developing countries such as Brazil, Nepal, Vietnam, Singapore, Sri Lanka, Malaysia, and Thailand in terms of healthcare spending as a percentage of GDP in 2018. So, however, we can say life expectancy has gradually improved from 58 years in 1990 to 69 years in 2017, as per WHO estimates for India. However, India still lags behind most of the developed and even developing countries in this regard. This necessitates higher spend on healthcare segment. As we can see, India spends very low amounts on healthcare. India's current healthcare expenditure decreased from 2013 to 2018. This decline was, however, more towards private expenditure compared with public expenditure. Low healthcare expenditure in India is primarily due to under penetration of healthcare services and lower consumer spending on healthcare. Further, The share of public spending on healthcare services remains much lower than global peers. For example, we can see on the right side chart, India's per capita total expenditure on healthcare was only $73 in 2018 compared to $10,000 for the US, 4,300 for UK, and 2,800 for Singapore. Friends, we can see there's a uptrend in government expenditure on healthcare. Currently, public healthcare expenditure is low, with private sector accounting for major share. India's current healthcare expenditure, which is written CH in below graph, is inclined more toward private expenditure compared with public. Government expenditure on healthcare has remained 20 to 30% of the current healthcare expenditure from 2010 to 2018. The rest of the expenditure is private in nature, means expenditure from resources with no government control, such as voluntary health insurance and the direct payments for health by corporations and households. However, the government aims to increase public healthcare expenditure to 2.5% of the GDP from the current of only 1.2%, according to NHP policy. That's the graph of friends out of pocket cost. In India, out of pocket expenditure on health accounted for approximately 63% of total health expenditure as of 2018. It's the highest among all other countries compared above. Insurance does not cover outpatient treatments. An insurance company started covering OPD treatments under health insurance only recently. Hence, OOP expenditure on outpatient treatment is greater than inpatient treatments. Approximately 25% of the rural population and 18% of the urban population are dependent on borrowings for funding their healthcare expenditure. While approximately 68% of the rural and 75% of the urban population use their household saving on healthcare related expenditure, friends. Healthcare expenditure contributes to approximately 3.6% and 2.9% of rural and urban poverty, respectively. Friends, that's the harsh truth. But we can say annually, around 6 to 8 crore people fall into poverty only due to health related expenditure. However, with Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana, the affordability aspect of healthcare expenditure is expected to be taken care of to some degree, especially for the deprived population. So currently, approximately 27% of the current healthcare expenditure in India is accounted by domestic private expenditure on medical goods, which include medicines. So key measures announced by government for healthcare sector just recently in response to COVID-19, India's COVID-19 emergency response and health system preparedness package of rupees 150 billion was announced in three phases until March 24 to address immediate need on account of COVID-19 pandemic. A separate health worker life insurance cover of 550 lakh under Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana was also announced to offer support to families of frontline health workers. Friends, that was the reason we just saw even in the union budget. In fact, this year we saw incremental budget on healthcare, which is highly positive. Key budget proposals we just saw was budgetary allocation toward health and well-being increased to 2.23 trillion in fiscal 22. Provision of 350 billion for COVID-19 vaccines in year 2022. Moreover, Government healthcare expenditure will now cover preventive and curative health and well-being. Out of this, health care related measures will account for 71% of the budgeted expenditure of around 95 billion for fiscal 21. A large part of the remaining spending on well-being will be contributed by the Jal Shakti Abhiyan. And even this is main thing that on the well-being front, under the Ministry of Jal Shakti, allocation for drinking water and sanitation is up 3.5 times compared with the revised estimate of even just fiscal 2021. So provision of potable drinking water via functional tap connections to rural household will impact health and hygiene positively, friends. So now if we look towards global pharmaceutical market, yes, it is to grow at around 5% CAGR over the next 5 years. Global pharma market has grown at around 5% during past, and in coming 5 years also, we expect the same growth. If you look on region-wise segmentation of global pharma market, we can see that just North America and Europe, if both combined, they are responsible for around 70% market of pharma. Here is the region-wise global pharma market outlook. So majority of the markets are going to grow by 5%. Asia Pacific, which is already underpenetrated, could grow 1 to 1.5% better than whole world. So, friends, what are the key growth drivers for global pharma industry? We can see rise in aging population, incidence of chronic disease, better access to medicine in emergency markets, and strong development of generics market. We can see in the chart number of persons aged 65 years or over by geographic region. The number of older people aged 65 years or above is expected to more than double by 2050. Globally, rising from 703 million in 2019 to 1.5 billion in 2050. So yeah, we can even compare it with the world GDP. As world was young, world have grew better. As we are seeing aging, world is in muted phase. Countries like India, Nigeria, Bangladesh, Indonesia, still those countries who are young are now outperforming overall world. So if we look on the global formulations outsourcing market, to grow at approximately 8.5% CAGR over the next 5 years. Past 5 years growth was 6%, but coming is even better than past. Global formulations outsourcing market has grown at a higher pace compared to overall global pharmaceutical market during past 5 years. Here we can say, friends, that there are some reasons for India emerging as the key player in CDMO segment. Lower cost, infrastructure and technical expertise for manufacturing, and India has proven track record in outsourcing. You can see domestic formulations CDMO to sustain its strong growth trajectory over the next 5 years. Pharmaceutical companies are increasingly outsourcing the development and manufacturing of new product, and as a result, the domestic formulation CDMO market has grown at a higher rate of around 30% CAGR compared to the growth rate of approximately 9% of domestic formulation markets in past 5 years. So here is the review and outlook on formulation exports from India. Exports remain strong in fiscal 22. COVID-19 vaccine sales to increase growth in fiscal 22. We can see India's formulation exports continued on a growth path in 22. In 20 and fiscal 21 led by newer launches and opportunities in limited competition products. Amid reducing pricing pressures in the United States market, export increased by approximately 11% on year during fiscal 20. So we are back on the growth. We can see here in financial 2017, pricing pressure impacted growth in regulated market. So overall pharma was muted post 2017. But now after 2020 we have seen good growth again in pharma industry, and you have already seen the results that the sales of your majority of pharma companies are now again growing. So back formulation export trend is back. Further, the export growth in 21 is estimated to be at approximately 13 to 14% on year, up from 12% growth reported past year. Exports remained strong in 2021 owing to continued demand for various products. So there are two type of market in pharma: regulated market where norms are high strict, and some are semi-regulated market. So what Indian pharmaceutical exports figure, you can see that players look to tap even under penetrated market for growth. Yeah, we believe that yes, US, Europe, Japan, those are some of the very good markets. But overall growth in semi-regulated market for the year 20 improved by 6% on year as players looked at penetrating smaller market also. Growth in markets such as Kenya and Brazil improved by around 11 and 9% on year during the period as pricing pressure continues in the conventional generics segment in the regulated market, albeit at a slower rate now. More players are looking to enter semi-regulated markets, thereby by boosting volume growth and increasing market share. So now the question is, if there is growth, if market is going to grow, who are the key players? In CDMO contract manufacturing, yes, there are too many, more than 100 listed pharma companies in India. Yes, we can go there also. But here, in this niche market, we can see there are some players like Akum Drugs and Pharma, Sinochem Pharma, Theon Pharma, Innova Captep, Windlab Biotech, Tirupati Medicare, etc. Majority, these all are unlisted companies. That was the reason initially we have not compared them with other listed peers. So you can see here operating income, Drugs is only company with 2400 crore turnover, that is more than 1000 crore turnover. All other companies are even less than 500 crore turnover. Margins of majority of those Syncon, Theonan, they are around 10%. Akum is having less net margin. Return on capital employed of majority of the pharma companies are good. Debt to equity ratio of majority is favorable except this Innova Captep, right? This is the trend we have seen in pharma. Majority of the pharma are already debt, either debt free or with lesser debt. So here friends, when we compare other player with our Windlab, I can give only 3 star to this company. Why 3 star and not, why not 5 star? We have given 5 star to many of the companies in past, like DMart, like Jubilant Food, like LTTS, LTI, and the list goes on. But here, why 3 star? Number one thing is sales. Windlass Biotech Limited is among the top five player in the domestic pharmaceutical CDMO industry in terms of revenue. But it's among top five, not the top. We cannot give star there. Margin, if you consider, yeah, we can give 1 star here. Right? Among the peer set considered, Sinochem Pharma Limited has the highest operating margin, followed by Innova Captab Limited and Windlass Biotech. If you go with return on capital employed, Theon Pharma and Sinochem Pharma have higher return on capital employed compared to the peers considered. Windlass Biotech Limited with return on capital of 14.4% also have a strong return profile. Right? We can't say best, but yeah, it's good. Now, if you compare it with some of the large player here, they are having more than 35% return on capital employed. Like the company where you have invested, like Divis, they are best. Asset turnover is important for manufacturing companies. Among the peer set consider Sinochem Pharma Limited has the highest asset turnover, followed by Theon Pharma Limited and Innova Captab Limited. Windlass also have a strong fixed asset turnover of 2.5 times in last year. So considering all these things, we can say this company is not bad, but not the best. Let us give 3 star. So now what is Windlass Biotech Limited? Sales, if we consider among the top 5 player in the domestic pharmaceutical formulation CDMO industry. Top 5, not first. Experience with over 2 decades of experience in manufacturing both solid and liquid pharmaceutical dosage forms. Their promoters are having good experience from they are from Dehradun. Market share. Last year market share was around 1.5%, which is not so much good. Right? It's the lowest market share in terms of revenue in the domestic formulation industry. So there are some companies which are having very high market share. We can even see those companies listing in future. We can focus more there. So how many star? 3 star rating. If you look on their business verticals, then CDMO services and products are responsible for 85% sales. So they may be saying that we are export oriented, we are doing domestic trade generics over the counter brand, but domestic trade is responsible for only 10%, export are responsible for only 5%. So let us not talk about this product. What they are doing? Clear and cut. CDMO service and product. Considering their milestone in 2001, they have commenced their operations from Dehradun. It took around 9 years to cross their first 100 crore. That's good. In 2010, they reached 100 crore. In 2014, that is in next 4 years, they crossed 200 crore milestone. They received first US FDA inspection clearance for their WHC plant, and 13-14 commenced operation at even Dehradun plant. In 2015, investment of 75 crore from Tano India Private Equity Fund, and in 2017 revenues crossed 300 crore milestone. And what's the main thing in 2021? They are with IPO, right? And Tano is going to exit from this IPO. They stayed with the company for around 5 to 6 years. Yes, company have grown, and we can even expect in future company is going to grow. So what's the conclusion for this IPO? Yes, we can apply for the IPO. Can expect good opening. But see, it is not for long-term wealth. Long-term wealth companies are those companies which are having at least 4 or 5 stars. Companies like Divis could perform better. You can go with only 2 star or 3 star rating companies also. But in those industries where you are not having any other choice, here you have already have several other good choices. Then why to compromise? You can go with same companies where you have invested since long time. So yeah, don't jump from here and there, from Divis to here. No, that's your wealth creator, and here is just an IPO opportunity. So thanks for staying with us. I Piyush Patel welcome you on behalf of Profit From It. www.profitfromit.in is the web from where you can access different research material. We are not a tip giving company. Please don't take it as a tip. We are the training institute. Toll free number is given, and do download our app for Android and iOS if you want to learn more. And friends, do subscribe to the channel and press that bell icon if you want the notifications. Right, friends? Do comment where you are going to invest. Davis, Sun Pharma, Lupin, or Wendla. Thank you so much and best of luck to everyone. Jai Hind.